look, for me, myself, and especially around design, a big tip is whatever the design is you want, I like people just to jump in.
Like
Own it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like if it's mid-century modern, it's mid-century modern, hard into mid-century, and then it becomes timeless. Not just some accents here and there. You know, we want it to be coastal with some mid-century modern cornice and stuff like that. It's like, it's neither here nor there. It's so soft.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, if you want to make something timeless, put some balls behind it, you know,
so interesting.
and jump in.
Welcome to Behind the Design, a podcast where we unfold the details behind the designs we know and love and explore how each project comes to life. I am Camilla Ingle, owner of Unfolded, an interior design and styling studio. In this podcast series, we dive into the details with our industry experts, covering topics such as the creative process, latest design trends, and how we, as an industry, work together to meet the brief and overcome challenges. Let the conversation begin. So welcome to Behind the Design. Tell us a little bit about you.
So I'm a builder. That's what I do for work. I build and design. This is my company, Blank Canvas Constructions. I'm also a father of a 9-year-old boy. I've got a couple of holiday houses on the Central Coast. I bounce around between here and the northern beaches. I do some media stuff, and I own a gym here on the Central Coast.
Wow, jack of all trades.
A little bit, just
No
a
pun
plate.
intended.
It's called a plate juggler. Yeah.
So would you be comfortable sharing anything around your personal journey in the industry?
Yeah, so finished school in year 12, reached out to a local builder, wrote him a letter and then got an interview. Started my apprenticeship with a company on the coast called Duff Tech Constructions. And then went out and sort of did my own thing after I finished that. I went over to England for a time and contracted over there, building big residentials and sort of, like really high-end residential places. And I was
Really different to Australia?
the Australian contractors really covered it over there.
Okay.
Got a really good rep over there. So that was fun. And then I went to Europe. I did some building in and around Europe. Came back here and I went for 2 years up in the Northern Territory and built Indigenous housing on a remote island I had 12 Indigenous apprentices, which was really fun. And that was on a really remote island in the Northern Territory. Then I came back and bounced around doing a couple of things and sort of started turning my hand towards design. So I actually kicked my parents out of their place because it needed reno, and I just said, "You don't know how to do it, I'll do it."
How were they with handing over the control?
They were fine. Yeah. They were fine. They trusted me, and we built all our own windows, we built all our own kitchens, everything like that. Did it for an amazing price. We actually got marine plywood and ripped it up into big boards and laid them down for floor. Everything was about...
Interesting. What marine plywood?
Just because it's so hard wearing and it can handle water and all that. And it's actually got a really nice grain. And so we ripped it up into big wide boards, back when big wide boards and industrial was in.
Yeah.
And then that sort of led me towards, okay, I can do this designing and renovating.
So it's obviously always been very natural for you.
Yeah. For sure. And then built my own, renovated my own house for Home Beautiful magazine, another couple of projects for Home Beautiful, and that put me on the radar for Channel 7, and then sort of got me onto House Rules as a judge on there. And then my own company's just formed in and around that, and sort of some very niche markets in specifically doing new builds and renovations, but specifically building, helping people build to sell places. Yeah.
Interesting. And so along that journey, so that's been quite a while now from school.
I've been out of school for 8 years now, yeah.
So Saul, we grew up together. Mm-hmm. I went to the all-girls school next door to the all-boys school on the Central Coast with you.
Absolutely.
Do you remember?
I do remember. Yeah. Eddie's and Joey's. Yeah, mortal enemies, yeah.
And so recently I've moved back to the Central Coast and we've reconnected.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I've watched you get into your design and me sort of running a parallel pathway in the building, and then this couple of projects popped up on the Central Coast. You're back on the coast, and it was like, yeah, perfect fit. And then we've started working together again and fit like a glove, and now we're sitting in front of a table 7 feet apart.
That's it. And on that note, how do you find interior designers and builders working together and that relationship?
I think it's really important. It's probably one of the biggest points of conflict I find in the building industry. Most builders can't stand the interior designers, and most...
Why is that?
Because they want it all and they want to, they want big, beautiful, grand designs, which cost a lot of money, and that sort of comes back to the builder to make that happen. So I think it's a really, really important relationship. But when you get it right, it should be streamlined and it should be symbiotic, and it should not be a hindrance on the project, which it is 90% of the time. It should really be the defining relationship on the project, I find.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess it's a good mix, for us. We're sort of the creative behind the design, but often for us to achieve that creativity and that, unique custom design that the client may want, we need you. We need you to help us articulate that, to build it, essentially. So it is a really important relationship, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, to be able to have people who can talk to each other and sort of blend both jobs, I suppose, both industries, and be able to talk, lend my hand towards the design. Okay, I see what you're getting at, Camilla. How about if we did it in this, because it's going to be a much simpler building practice?
Yep.
Or you can vice versa say, well, I'm trying to achieve this. Why don't you, is putting up a wall in here to split the rooms and only at half height, is that completely out of the question?
Totally.
So you're having someone and not being hard-lined, this is what I want and this is how I'm going to attain it. You go over there and build it. That's what's so important. So
like bouncing those ideas.
Yeah.
And having someone, would you agree that I'm good at what I do, you're good at what you do? If we stay in our own lanes but collaborate, that's sort of that best way that we can align on the project to get that outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it is. It's collaboration. It's not cars on a conveyor belt line where you put the bumper on and I put the lights on and we never see each other. It should be like a grey area.
Yeah.
That you come together. Okay, the client wants this. This is how I want to achieve it. How can we get there? Okay, that's going to blow the budget on this. Could we get there by doing, this? We're going to get that same effect. Here's my input. Here's your input. Okay, we'll find a happy medium. And often, it'll take you to a different place, slightly different to get both a better outcome for both client, builder, and designer.
And it's really interesting, I think we touched on this on a couple of recent projects where I would engage with you on a job or vice versa, and the client may tend to think, all right, well, to save a little bit of money, I'll get Camilla on the design, creative process, Saul on the build, also the creative process, and I'm just going to source a couple of my own joiners, trades, etc. What are your thoughts and opinion on that?
Nightmare. It's a nightmare.
I would agree.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and I can totally see it's happened to a project just around here, not too far away, which I was dealing with this morning, where it becomes, that's the burden that I take on as a builder, to oversee everybody, to stack timelines, to have trades coming in after these people.
Like a project manager.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's my burden, and when that sort of... when that gets taken away and looked after by someone else, you just can't tell the other person exactly all the things you have in your head, all those timelines, and it only takes a couple of little things to trip that up. Totally. Sorry, we can't install the kitchen because I forgot to tell you my plumber's on holidays for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like those sort of things.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's much more manageable by...
streamlined.
Yeah, that's right. And keeping it into a team who... are professionals, work together. It's like running a company, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you have somebody at the top and then they have specific heads of department. And if you just sort of outsource a head of department to somebody else, it's going to fall down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess, the message behind that is to sort of trust in the interior designer, to then trust in them having a good builder, which means adopting the builder and his trades.
Yeah.
And really engaging with the whole team.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's an ideal process, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a lot of money building, especially nowadays.
Not cheap.
It's a lot of money, and it's a lot of responsibility to hand over. But it's that trust relationship. It's got to be coming from the client. This is what I want to achieve, and I have to trust in the designer that they understand me sometimes better than I understand myself, and to have faith in that, and also your builder that you're that they're going to work hard for you, and that they're going to manage all those other trades to execute, even though you mightn't be able to see the forest for the trees a lot of the time.
Totally. And it is a bit of a classic case of time poor and, not cash rich, but having that money to be able to invest into that process and trust, because a lot of people are time poor. And that's why they engage with people like you and I, because they don't have the means or the resources or the time to be doing all the DIY stuff. Yeah.
And I guess when you are talking about time versus money, a lot of the time people will take on their own things, Maybe they'll source furniture, maybe they'll source tiles, maybe they'll source a plumber. They've got a plumber mate that they can use. And then they end up doing a portion of project managing which they're not good at. And then that costs them more time. And in the long run, they won't quite get as good a product they could have got.
Yeah.
And it's taken them more time. And if time versus money, it's cheaper in the long run to have a trusted team.
Yeah.
Give them as much money as you can. Just hand over your bank card. Yeah, that's right. All rich clientele, please. And then, but no, really trust in your team, and then let them do what they're professionals at.
Yeah, 100%. And so, do you have a creative process? You mentioned design and build. Does that mean that when you enter into an engagement with either an interior designer, do you like to have a bit of free reign on the design? Or are you really happy to have that all drawn up for you in strict architectural plans?
Yeah, I guess, I love design myself, and I like to turn my hand at design, but I very much need to feel out as I go, rather than, if I was to design, rather than to draw things, which you're probably very good at, to see things before they even come to life, and know that, okay, I can pull this in here and this in here and this is how it's going to look. Whereas I need to sort of see and feel and walk around in the project. So yeah, I really like to design on the fly. But that really that sort of makes me quite unique to, especially to clients. So I can maintain budget by being able to keep their design in mind, achieve what they want, and then push and pull on certain things where we can, while watching the budget, and be able to sort of have that flexibility design. Now, having someone like yourself in there, that just makes my life a hell of a lot easier, because we can collaborate on all of those things. You've got all the background stuff happening. I can do the foreground thing, and then once again, it's that grey area where we can blend across.
100%.
Yeah.
And you know what I really appreciate about the interior designer builder relationship is little things like, sometimes I think the average person doesn't understand that once we've done the architectural plans, we then go into the design development phase. Some of those stones may be discontinued that we chose in that phase. Some of those tiles may be out of stock till June 2025. Little things like that I find really handy to then bounce with my builder and say, what have you seen recently that's similar? Have you got a supplier we can go to? Because everyone knows somebody. And I find it really handy to be able to have that really trusting relationship of, I really still want to achieve this look, this feel, this design. This client has approved it and signed off on it. How can we do that?
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think that's what the collaboration part is so important, because sometimes those things can be fortuitous, Maybe you can't get that stone, till 2025.
Yeah.
But also to lay that stone might be, for my tiler, might be $250 a square metre. So we're going a little bit over budget here. If actually we can get rid of that stone and bring in something else, if I can get him to lay that for $150 a square. Because, so it's such a that's why it's so fluid, and it's really handy to have people who have got their finger on the pulse and can be able to still meet the design and the build envelope where necessary,
Yeah.
and be able to push and pull on certain elements, and have trust in one another that's going to be done at the end of the day, and not hard-lined, right?
Yes.
That's not like, well, it's going to be stone, so we're going to wait till 2025. And
That's it.
like, well,
What do we do now?
yeah. I've got my insurance tied up on that,
Yeah,
thanks.
that's it. It's a concrete slab.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
So tell me, what motivates you?
I guess in life, it's my son is the be all end all. He's my little nucleus. I always said, like, when I had him, I was the center of my world, and then when he came along, he sort of pushed me out, and now I just orbit him. So everything's for him. But no, especially in building and design, what motivates me is being able to achieve. I love being able to achieve things on a budget. I love to be able to take what a client wants and make it bigger and better, and show them all these different ways we can adapt, and find these ways to get exactly what you want and more that you didn't think was possible. So that's what really, and I love bringing together old things. I love renovations because, we've got all these structures sitting around us, and why knock them all over? So I just love being able to recycle. I like old cars. I like old houses.
Like the project you showed me on the Northern Beaches.
Yeah.
Just how beautiful that dwelling is as is.
Absolutely, yeah.
Without having to reinvent everything all the time.
Yeah, and I love to pay homage to what was there, and sort of I always, not that I believe in an afterlife, but I always think, what if that person who was, let's get deep.
Yeah.
What would that person look down and think, hey, he did a really good job at that, and I'm really proud of what he's kept my stuff alive. Yeah. And I love just to be able to touch a wall. Yeah, you can put up a beautiful stone wall today, and that stone was cut out of the earth a week previous, but when there's this stone sitting on a wall that's been there for 80 years, it's like it's got a story behind it, there's character, and there's got what has that thing seen, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And watch people if that stone could talk. Seen people be conceived.
Fly on the wall.
Maybe murdered, who knows, whatever.
Not too deep.
Yeah.
So do you have a favourite project to date?
Do I have a favourite project to date? Yeah, I do. Like one thing I do commercially.
Am I sensing some hesitation?
No, because there's so many different ones. So it's a really tricky question because there's different ones that fit in different categories. But what I do commercially is I find projects which are, your sort of 1 out of 10s, the diamonds in the rough, and then I help people renovate them for sale, which is really, really, it's really in keeping with all the things I love, which is recycling. It means I make the house beautiful again for the people to buy it, so they're not going to just knock it over and start again. And I also generate income, big income for people who haven't got the means, the ways, the know-how. So I've done a couple of projects for those which have generated, turned sort of old back sheds. I did one at Matcham, big property, and they had it.
Central Coast?
Yes, on the Central Coast. They had an old shed at the back. They were like, do we knock this over and get rid of it? I was like, no, this is perfect for like a little Airbnb. So we went in there for 8 weeks and just redid the whole thing. And then it was the biggest seller on the property. And they got it put on tons of money. They actually had a wedding facility next door. So then the people who bought were like, well, we can use that and put people in there and all that kind of stuff. So those sort of projects, I've done a couple of those, which I love to do, sort of polish up those diamonds in the rough, or turd polishing, as it's known in the business.
May or may not keep that one.
Yeah, keep it. That's what it's called.
And it's interesting because when we caught up recently, we were talking about all the aspects of why you do what you do and what you value. And I remember one of the things you said was obviously achieving that capital growth for the clients, which I really appreciated as an interior designer, knowing that I engage with a builder who is super keen to help me help the client in achieving that. And some people do want to live in their home forever. So capital growth, is it of a high value to them in that moment? But later it will be. So like what you're saying with your value around reinventing places for capital growth, that's that kind of same value that you're doing in every project.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so important to me. Like, I love real estate, and like you can easily overcapitalize nowadays. But I always keep that in the back of my mind as almost like a value add for clients that they're not necessarily asking for or not. It's like, well, what I might be building might be expensive, but I'm doing it also with the forethought of, if you need to sell this thing one day, we're not overcapitalizing. Because I hate to do a project which is, a $2 million, maybe on a $2 million plot of land, and it's a $4 million build, and if they sell that, it's going to be worth $4 million. So that kills me. But that's why I like renovations. That I know even if it's $1 million build, that we're adding $1 million plus to the to the generational, the wealth of the property, basically.
So did you always see yourself becoming a builder and running your own business? Like, was that always a goal of yours, or?
No.
I mean, you seem to have a few businesses.
Yeah, probably not. I think what I did, should I have gone into something else? I'm not sure. But I sort of followed up, at school I was always he could achieve so much if he just put his head down. And so I think teachers
You're also the funny guy.
Yeah, that's right. So teachers said to me, just go out and get a trade, But so I sort of jumped into doing a trade just because,
That's really common.
It is. It's
and
really
still
common.
Now is really common. People are leaving in year 10 more often than not to do exactly that.
Yeah, and I mean, we need more tradesmen, so it's still a really good industry. But, maybe I should have done something more creative, but I found my creative path in the building industry.
Yeah.
So I guess that's how I got here. What was the question, actually? I'm just talking about myself. Favourite subject, by the way. Yes.
Did you always see yourself becoming a builder and running your own business?
Yeah, I guess not.
Because you're very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
That would be the best word. Without that word, sometimes it gets me.
It's a buzzword,
I would never have it on my LinkedIn. What is it? Instagram bio.
Yeah, I know. It's
People do.
Yeah, that's right. People do. It is. It's one of those buzzwords now. It's like filling your cup.
That's it.
Oh, gosh.
That's it. But it's sort of, it sounds like you're creative in so many different facets. And because you're saying you're such an energetic person, you're able to fulfill all of those sort of facets in your life.
Through this industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And that's kind of the surprise. I sort of took it on with not knowing what I was going to do. And then it's been the outlet for all my creativity. And it's filled that sort of, like I've done stand-up comedy and gymnastics and dance and all these things. And it's like they're all sort of creative pursuits.
Yeah.
And in the building industry, I've been able to sort of carve my own path and, sort of find a niche market which allows my creativity to get out. So I didn't actually see myself ever doing this, but it really does fit well with me because I still love to build things. I love to use my hands. The running a business side of things is just...
How do you find it?
The problem with running a building company is a lot of builders just they don't have the tools, quote unquote, to be a manager of a company. And sometimes you get bogged down in just being a company manager rather than being a builder.
100%.
And there's a lot of tools out there now which can really help you. But I think it's funny. I mean, I used to interview principals when I was doing building inspections for schools. And that was the biggest thing that they said. They were like, I'm a teacher. I'm not equipped to run a multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what can happen in the building industry. So you've got to really, when you jump into owning a business and those sorts of things, you need to know that you're going to be a businessman.
An accountant.
Yeah, an accountant, all those sort of things. Or you need to get
manager.
You need to get big enough. Yeah. You need to get big enough so you can palm off all that other stuff.
Totally.
And you can get back to doing what you do best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. So if there was any advice that you would give to your younger self, what would that be?
To my younger self. I think especially when you're an apprentice, being a carpenter and a builder, leading up to being a builder, one thing is there's a lot to learn. And so for the first 4 years, you're just getting told what to do. And the biggest
to be okay with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The biggest transition is being able to think for yourself.
Interesting.
Because
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, for the first 4 years, you're basically a point and shoot. Go over there and dig 4 holes where I mark them out. go and do those things. And you're just getting told what to do. And you can fall into the trap of, I'll just come to work and they'll tell me what to do and I'll do it. Basically, you become a hired gun. So to be able to...
Initiative too, like having the initiative,
Yeah,
listening, but also having
that's
the
right.
initiative.
There's so much to learn in those 4 years. But the biggest thing is that you need to show initiative, that you can forward think, because then you're going to propel yourself. And one of the best ways to do that is to get out on your own on weekends, taking on small jobs where you hit a problem where
Cashies.
Yeah, little cashies where your boss would normally say, "Oh, this is how we're going to get around that," and you've got to think and get your way around it. And that's what I did, and that was the biggest learning curve. Was obviously on the job, and I had great people in around me, but it's actually sort of sink or swim when you get out there by yourself, having to solve problems that normally someone would tell you how to solve.
Yeah. And do you think if you were then to hire trades, which you've got your team of trades, in the process of hiring, how do you go about that? Do you find that you sort of throw them in the deep end on a few things, knowing the skill set that they have? Or do you prefer, I guess would be the better word, kind of micromanage the way through?
Yeah, I mean, this is the tussle, right? Because you micromanage someone too much and then they just come back to you looking, what do I do next? What do I do next?
Yeah.
So it is, especially in the hiring of different people, it is a case of do what I ask you to do and then do more than that. You know, pretty soon you should be, if you're standing around looking at what needs to be done, pick up a broom.
Yeah.
Start moving some stuff around on the floor. There's always something to be done.
Totally.
And that goes a long way. Picking up a broom, going and taking something down to the bin,
100%.
whatever. It's just like, yeah, I can't always be there to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
So take some initiative that you can forward think. Well, at least the site needs to be clean.
Yep, that's it. There's always something. Yeah, it's interesting. So for us, in a similar way, we find that when we hire, or I hire for our team, we like, those designers or creatives to do what they need to get done, but also check in and ask if there's other things that do need to be done. Because the list for you and I as owners is pages long, but we may have only given them 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we think, okay, well, within one day, that's what you'll get done.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's
Being
tough
a manager
to find
as
good
well,
people.
add that to our...
Oh, I know. Another hat, hey, throw it on. God.
So I would absolutely love to cover with you a couple of tips for potential clients that you would like to share, be it around the build, be it around DIY, new build versus renovation. So if there's a couple of things that you'd like to share on that.
I think have tons of money. First
Big
and
budget.
foremost. Yeah, that's right.
Unlimited budget.
That's right. I think it is really important who you choose. And to that point, how much control you want to have and are willing to sort of give up, and that sort of...
Hand over the control.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that can be, a different person can fit sort of each stage of where you want to be in that on that spectrum. But I think, a team you can trust, that you can go away on holidays during that time, although, that never happens. But you should be able to know you can go away on holidays and the place is going to be looked after. Yeah. So that's like number one, I think. And I think, look, for me, myself, and especially around design, a big tip is, for me, I hate when people want, especially in a design theme, and we want to say coastal and neutral, but we don't want to go too out there. It's like, whatever the design is you want, I like people just to jump in.
Like
own it, yeah. I mean, like if it's mid-century modern, it's mid-century modern, hard into mid-century, and then it becomes timeless. Not just some accents here and there. We want it to be coastal with some mid-century modern cornice and stuff like that. It's like, it's neither here nor there. It's so soft. Yeah. It's just, if you want to make something timeless and you want to like put some balls behind it,
it's so interesting.
And jump in.
Yeah, it's
full
so
force.
Interesting you say that, because when you look at, social platforms like ArchiPro, who are showing off, and the local project, who are constantly showcasing huge like developments, designs, architectural planning, everything, and how much they'll say a modern take on Hamptons. And you're sitting there thinking, okay, I'd love to see what that is. Because what is a modern take on Hamptons?
Yeah.
It's the standard Hamptons cladding on the outside. Then as you walk in, it's all these modern lights or, modern fabrics, or the floorboard could be completely tiled.
Yeah.
And it just changes up the whole warm Hamptons kind of vibe. So, yeah, it's an interesting one that you say that.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I mean, any of those places you walk in that smack you in the face that like, oh my gosh, they nailed the design here. You never walk into them and say, wow, they nailed the design. Well, they really pulled back here and, that's really soft there. It's like whatever it is, if it's very, very modern, it is completely modern.
Yes.
If it's...
every inch of that room.
Exactly.
Space,
Yeah, they've gone balls to the wall, so to speak, and they've done everything.
Yeah.
They've leaned really hard into the design style. And I think that's really important.
Totally. And especially, once the build is done, if it is a modern place, for example, we absolutely love, because we obviously offer the full interior design scope, but then we also offer the furnishings and accessories package as well. So when we come in and do that, it's so much easier. If the build is already done and they only go for the furniture, we know exactly what type of furniture is going to work because the build is exactly modern.
Yeah.
It's exactly industrial or whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's my tip. Jump in 2 feet deep, lean hard into that design.
So off the back of, tips for potential clients, if you were to sort of fill me in on what is your creative process once you do engage with that client, is it, asking them a sheet of questions when you meet with them? Do you do specific research around that? How do you go about that process?
Yeah, I guess it comes down to what they want. What's the end product? We start at the end product, right? And we work our way back from there. Obviously money comes into it, but what do we want to achieve out of this? And without sort of putting numbers on it, let's say if it's if it's a new build, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's dirt there and we're going to build this thing here. But if it is a renovation, yeah, that's right. If it is a renovation, it's like, what do we want to achieve? And are we going everything, Are we sort of turning this from what it is and we're turning it into what you consider a 10 out of 10 renovation, turning into, or are we going to conserve money and turn it into an 8 out of 10? Are we happy with an 8 out of 10? And so without sort of, without asking the clients directly, because it's very hard to put a number on, because everyone's just going to say, well, 10, right? It's more of a feel-out process of me trying to get in their head to see what they're going to want to achieve, to be able to put dollar figures to those, and to be able to help them.
Being transparent with them to say, this is what you'll get for 10 out of 10. This is what we need money-wise.
Yeah.
This is what you'll get for 8 out of 10.
Yep.
The budget for 8 out of 10.
Yeah, exactly right.
They know what to expect, right? Expectations is such a big one in our industry.
Exactly right. And there are the other things, especially when it comes to renovations, is what are you willing to give up, because we're going to hit hurdles. Are you okay with having a step in the bathroom? If it comes to that, if we can't drop the joist for some reason, or is that a non-negotiable for you?
Yeah.
Where are these sort of places where I can sort of push and pull within the process? And it's basically me trying to find out what they want, and be able to get hold of that vision as clearly as possible, and be able to execute that and better.
Yeah. And just back from a technical perspective, back to that step into the bathroom, can you elaborate on that just for...
Well, yeah, we hit one not long ago and turns out... Yeah, exactly right. Turns out it was all steel bearer and joists, right? So then you can't cut into steel bearers and joists because we can't take checkout. So the bathroom has to drop down so we have enough screed so the tiles can meet the flooring.
A lot of technical in building, isn't there?
There is. So to do that, if it's a prerequisite, it has to be streamlined floors. They have to be all one level. We've got to pull out all the steel. We've got to put supports underneath to carry new timber so we can drop the floor down. Well, it becomes a quite expensive...
Than Ben-Hur.
That's right. It becomes quite an expensive process. But maybe this is something that the owners can do away with and, we'll never notice that little step in the bathroom. We're fine with that.
And it's interesting off the back of that, because if we circle back to... clients who might have a budget of, say, small renovation, 200K, 250K, something like that happens mid-build. that has not been accommodated for
Sure.
in the budget could be an extra, what, couple of thousand?
250 is again.
Just for that. But it's a perfect example, isn't it, of having that really good, diligent team, designer, builder, trades, all in one, holistic approach. We can all manage that. Talk them through, you know what, that's not worth your investment.
No, that's
because
right.
we really want to get that decking in. And that pergola, for example, that design of that pergola is far more important than investing however much into the step into the bathroom.
Absolutely. It's really important to have people like on the same page so you can tell the client, you don't want to die on this hill. This is not the hill to die on, you know?
Exactly. And that team, I think they feel supported when they've got a team like
that's right.
all of us together.
Because it is such an emotional thing. But also, you know, when it's holistic like that and you've got a vision of the whole place, okay, maybe we can do the bathrooms here, but we were going to have this nice paving outside around the pool area. That can't happen now, but we could turn it into deck. That's going to give us an extra 30K on the budget where we can, and this is where we can manipulate the numbers. So you can have that step if that's has to happen, but we're going to lose it somewhere else, but we can still get the same look by changing this on the fly.
Or even chatting with the designer around, you know, we might have had built-in cabinetry or built-in joinery. And you and I both know joinery, custom joinery, way up there, way up there. Obviously a beautiful product. Everybody wants it, mud rooms, sunbeds, things like that. But that could be something, again, having that discussion with the client, like communication is key in these instances. To have that conversation with the client and say, look, we were going to go for a really beautiful, solid, built-in joinery piece over in this corner. We may need to opt for veneer. But again, coming back to the bathroom, you'll get that seamless step into the bathroom.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's about what's more important to you, you know? And that's why you really need to get into the client's head.
Yeah.
And the other thing is for clients, realise this is your dream and what we're talking about now is going to change and you're going to add on. And, you know, you're going to do this once and once only.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're going to put a new gutter up here because we're moving this part of the house out. Then you're going to look at all the gutters which look fine now and go, oh, it all has to change. So you have to be aware that these things, exactly right, and that these are all not, fortunately, aren't freebies.
100%. Are there any instances that you would share where you've had, as they call, nightmare projects or nightmare clients, not to name any names?
Not so much nightmare clients. I've had just some you get some good stories. I remember I was an apprentice when I was first allowed to cut in architraves to do fix out, right? You're trusted to start to do architraves. So we were on a project at Womberall, and it was a big sort of week because I'm trusted now to cut in, do all the finishes. And the tilers were laying these huge 600 by 600 stone paving tiles on this huge outdoor area. So we had some planks set up onto some buckets where the tile was missing, which would lead us over to the drop saw where we would do all our cuts. Mm-hmm. Tilers are working their way from the house with their backs towards the house. They're working out, and they'd probably laid 70 squares of tiles. Gosh. I'm looking down at my cutting list, which I've just measured everything and made. And
nervous.
And I didn't walk along the plank. I'd walk straight across the tiles. But the tiles have already started to go off and harden, so I was fine till I got 5 metres out. And then when I got 5 metres out onto the wet glue, I felt myself slip, and I just pushed the tiles up like this, and then I ran, and then they all just everywhere. And the tilers are just here with their backs to me, and no one knew.
Oh, no.
So I ran over to the drop saw, and I just started cutting, and I'm just waiting for this explosion to happen.
Wow.
And then I just hear, what the going on here? And these guys were both alcoholics. They were nightmare tilers. They were good at tiling, but oh my God, they were hotheads. And so I had to put my earmuffs on, and I'm just cutting like this, freaking out.
How old were you, sorry?
20 maybe. Maybe 19, yeah. And then I hear my boss come. So there was a boss of the company and the tradesman who taught me everything. So he screams out to me, Saul, yeah. And he says, did you do this? And I'm just about to own up to it. And nobody liked the owner of the company. Anyway, one of the guys yelled out. One of them said, I saw the boss. I won't know his name. I saw the boss out here. He was on the phone. He didn't even know what he was doing. He walked on there. And the other one said, I saw him out here too on the phone. When he gets on the phone, he doesn't know what he's doing. Anyway, they all convinced themselves, and I'm just sitting there silently. The bosses walk around. They said, get out here. And he came out. They said, you've just done this. He said, I didn't do that. And they all three of them went, we watched you. We watched you do it. And so they convinced him. The tilers went home for the day, pulled up all the tiles, cleaned all the glue, and it's the only time I've ever told the story. So I got away with it scot-free.
It's just come out now.
Oh, it's just come out now. Anyway, I'll get the bill.
So just before we wrap up, how can people find you?
I'll be heading up and down the freeway most days.
What's your number, please?
Yeah, that's right. My website, www.blankcanvasconstructions.com.au. And they can reach out to me personally on Instagram and, all those things.
I had one final question.
Hit me.
Bit of a fun one. Something a bit interesting for you. What is your go-to karaoke song?
I've made a couple of mistakes in karaoke. Like, I did one at a pub not that long ago, and stupidly, being drunk, I thought everyone's doing the classics, right? And I'm like, I'll be different. I'm going to belt out a song which everyone will kind of know. But when I do this rendition, they're going to go, oh, I love that song. I went down like a lead balloon. No one could sing along to it.
Oh.
And I actually died on stage. And like, I've done stand-up for years. I went up to get a drink at the bar after, and this guy patted me on the back. He's like, it's all right, mate. Being on stage isn't for everybody. And I was like, listen, dude, I do this for a living, man. Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd have to belt out a classic if I'm going to do karaoke. But my dream is to learn, Sail Away by Anya.
Oh, when you say learn?
I want to learn it on piano.
Okay.
I'd love to. My dream is to just be at a house party and just be able to belt out and learn all those words, because I don't know what language it's in.
True. I think she's Irish. It's like it's a lingo that we don't know.
So that's what I want to learn. I want to learn that on piano and just be able to belt it out and have the whole party sing.
So you need microphone, piano.
Or a big party, and I've got to invest time into it. It's a big dream, but...
Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
No problems. Thank you.